those magnificent men in their flying machines. They go up to the up up, they go down to the up down.
Okay, we're coming to this bit now where I'm going to obviously fit this wing spars. So I'll to do it with the camera. The thing is to do with this is make sure you've got it, use your eye mainly. You can measure it, but to be honest with you, you're better off using your eye. Make sure it's in essentially in between the fuse sides and on that main spar crossing over, yeah. And then you simply just get a nice marker pen and make sure it's in the middle. One there like so. And then the same distance there. It doesn't really matter if it's a bit out because it's not going to be seen, these. Okay, once you've got them there, you're happy with that. And then try and keep it in the camera. You do the same. This is your for your what holds the wings on. Make sure they're in the centre, like so. And the other one, like so. Okay, right, you got that. Right, and then they need to be drilled. Right, I've decided I'm going to use, get it in my hands, M4 bolts with a locking washer underneath, a locking nut even, and put a washer. I'm going to put a washer underneath there under the hardwood, so it's got something to press against and hold on. I mean, you can, even if you really want to be secure, then Loctite the bolt afterwards if you want, but these locking nuts are pretty reliable. Okay, and then the next stage is you obviously have the right width drill, which will be a 4mm drill. And now I'll move the camera, bear with me, get it onto the drill. So we'll go along, get seasick doing this now. There we go, we're going to spot on. Right, you got that underneath, bit of wood underneath, and then you simply just clear the debris, drill your holes out. You can see my hand in the way, it's common sense really, but there you go. They should get it in the middle. Ones and then the inner ones. And then with the bottoms of these, you sand the burr off either with I'll be a bit blurry. The burr that's on there, either sand it off with a lynch sander or a file to get them smooth. Okay, so we'll quickly do that now. Let's get it out of the way. Right, move the camera back. Everyone getting seasick. Right, now we're back to there. Now, again, it gives you another chance to line it up just to be sort of sure. I mean, if you feel I'm not confident enough, then you can always go down, draw down there either side, and then take it away and see if it looks there. But that's usually by your eye, you'll be able to see it. And then when you got that, you hit the marker, dab it in there. Dab it in there. Now what I tend to do is I use a slightly wider drill, not much, maybe a 5mm at the most, yeah, and then drill down like you do. Right, and the same with that one. Right, and there you have it. And then you put it on, make sure it's the square head the right way around, which it is. Okay, drop the bolt in, and the other bolt. It's a nice square, which it is. There you go, perfect. And then obviously, when the time comes, you bolt them up onto the thing. The reason I'm bolting them now is because I'm going to do, with these as they are, I'm going to put plates of wood on them to make them look like the real spars. But obviously with this piece here, around my finger running down, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to rough it off with a bit of sandpaper roughly, and then I'm going to stain it so that it gets the same sort of colour as the wood when you stain that, or you're going to have a nice silver bit. The other way to do it is you can get, I'll put it on here because nobody sees it, you can use permanent marker on it to get the black, if you can live with it. The black will look alright. I've done it before with black on the edges and that, and then you put the, you know, the capping on, which I'll come to later, which I've done on Dean Farr's one, I believe. But I'm going to try it with the wood stain with it seal first and see how that works. Okay. Alright, we're on this bit. This is where it goes. These have been pre-cut from the kit, and like I've said before you do put anything in, you just draw them back out on a piece of card, so it's easier to, if you're going to make another one, that you've got it there as a template. So anyway, it's quite basic. It shows you on the plan. Always start from the front of the wing there, and to get it square, because that's where you're going to have a rib cap, the side of the circular bit, which will go down there to formulate this curve on the fuse. Okay, and then you simply just do that, and then you just get a bit of glue. So always start from the front one, not the back, as you'll see. And just glue it on, like so. Just do it a bit like that. It's nice. Okay. And make sure it's square to the front of the. There you go. Squeeze it down. Get rid of the excess glue. As long as it's square at the front, it doesn't matter about the back. Like that. Now with these, it's white glue I'm using, PVA. And pins. Either clamp it or what I'm doing, pin it, doesn't really matter, because it's going to be enough there to hold it. Because these will eventually be sanded to shape to allow the curvature on the fuselage. Clamp in the middle. So take away the excess glue, make sure it's true to there, which is fine. Then the next piece, line it up. Make sure you've got the right end, which is that end. If you go that way, it'll be out by miles. So it's that end. Okay, you just follow the bottom of the wing curvature on the fuse. Exactly the same again. Bit of white glue. Okay. Okay. Put it over your finger. Put it on. Right. Line it up. Okay. Just put it in position. This one you can clamp. Right. There. Take away the excess glue and then just put a pin at the end. Okay. And that's that bit. Now once I've got it like this, I'll try and find the pieces. Notice how bright it is in my workshop now. Yay! Because I've went and bought a strip light before and it's got to be done. It's driving me insane. So there you have it in a nutshell. I'm just looking for the pieces now. It might be in here. Well, my luck's probably in here. There we go. I think this is them. Probably ain't. That'll do for now to show you what I mean. Right. Okay. So let's get on the camera. These are the bits of right. So it's probably not this piece, but it will be these, right? And what I mean is these will go in eventually. The right piece will go in. Okay, like I'm actually looking at them now, so I should be able to find the right ones. So here we go. I wasn't planning to do this, but right. For instance, eventually, obviously, when the right piece comes like that, that'll be for there, and it sits in like that. If you can get that on the end there, just in. Well, it's the same on there, one piece on there, and obviously when they're in, right. And then what I mean by that is this is where this piece here has got to be sanded more or less flat onto the wings fuselage side, just curved in, and I'll show you that when that's done. I've done it on another video, but you see what I mean. And that'll be the next stage once these are glued in. Find the right ones that belong to where they're meant to go. And like I said before, with these, draw them out again, mark them, which I have there, like F9, right? Mark these, and that way make a template for the new ones, because these are quite hard because there's nothing on the plan to show you what these look like. So definitely get a template of these, all of them. And that's a ball ache, but it's worth doing. Okay, we're on the side ribs now. The best way to describe this, I suppose, because people say I don't show it all the way through, what I do is it's basically, you can use the map as a guide, and the plan as a guide, but what I do is it's like, I get your top piece, which is your top former, which is F8 in this case, and you bring it up. And what you want to do is you want to, because you're obviously going to meet the bottom piece of the side rib, you find it on the bottom of the fuse, and obviously that's the position where it equally lines up with that, so it would be, so you've got it nice and flush with the bottom of the fuse, which is obviously where this position one is, and that one's there. And then what you do is I usually, just to give myself a guide, I'm on the camera, yeah, I run the pen up and down the side of it so it shows you the line. And then obviously on its side you super glue it, and then, and it doesn't show you this on the plan, but what I tend to do is I get another piece of scrap of angle. Once it's in place, glued in, I get another piece, and then basically to make sure it's nice and square, I super glue that in, and plus it gives a bit of rigidity when you're trying to put the covering on the side. Okay, and then once you've done that, the next stage is that you've got it matched up. Before you do the other side, you get the top piece, your top former, which sits on there. Right, now there's two ways of doing this. If you're happy with it, and to be fair, normally I would put where it sits, it's sitting in fresh air there, but what I would normally do is I would put a piece underneath, so it gives it a bit more rigidity under the former. But in this case I can't, because the engine's actually going to be in the way, so because I've set the engine back into the fuse, so that's not a possibility. Okay, so which it won't matter anyway, because it's going to be rigid when it goes on. And then the reason I do this one next is that you make sure it's nice and square in line like it is. Again, you just get your super glue and you just do the edges there, on the edge of that, like so, and then you slip it in and make sure it's nice and square on that end. So you use your former as a guide, set it in and leave it to set, and there you have it. And then obviously you repeat the same thing the other side, and then as you go down following your plan, you do the same step, because obviously this one F5, which is this, again that sits flush there, nice and square. You go up to it using the butt, if you can see it on the camera, just I'll move it over, there you go. So it sits again on the bottom, nice and square. Draw it with a line like so, because you know that's where it's going, so you just line it like that, so you can see. I'll do it rough now so you can see. So you see your line, turn it on its side, super glue it. Super glue this, obviously will run it down if you're good enough. And again, get a piece, just an off cut, doesn't matter. Once it's on, it's nice and square, then set. Because obviously your next former, which will probably be whatever it is, can't see it now, but it'll be the same process all along. And you do one side complete all the way down, because obviously these are cut ready to go on F5. So there's F6, sits on about there. Again, you see. Now here's the trick with this, because it's out flashed out, that's not a problem, because you're going to have to sand that round when it comes to the folding. Okay, so check that. And then obviously again there, it's out of the camera range now, but I'll just push it forward. See what I mean? So you got them there, and eventually the whole setup will be like so. Okay, that's it up to that stage, so you can now see what I mean. And obviously if you turn it round, it's the same that side. So the only other thing I didn't show, which is the last former's in, this is where you put your back spars that trail down to the tailplane. You got so many, I think there's 5 on this version. Now what I've done there is obviously to strengthen it, I've put just a piece of scrap balsa under there, another piece there to give it a bit of rigidity, because I'm going to cut them into that. On the plan it just says butt up and glue it to them, but that doesn't work very well for me. It adds a bit more strength to it whilst you're cutting and stuff like that. So that's that really now. So that's the later stage. So the next thing to do is, you know, so I haven't put these back in yet, because what I'm basically going to do is, next job is sand these to shape. So you sand them into the pin, obviously, yeah, and round that one off at the bottom. And then what I will do as well, which is again is not on the plan, I'm going to put another piece in here and in here, scrap balsa, so that when you put your sheeting over it, it's got something to stick to, rather than just relying upon sticking it upon the edge there. You know what I mean? So you'll see what I mean. I do that on both sides. and that's how I normally do them, because it's got to have something to adhere to. Simple as, simple. Okay, and on the top with this kit, it's not such a bad thing because it will formulate straight round. On a normal open plan one, like it'll be here, you might need to put a bit of scrap filler in, which if I do that I'll show it, but not on this one normally. On the quarter scale ones you definitely have to, because it's a bigger thing. Okay, so after I've sanded these, I'll then put these wing spars in, and then the fun begins trying to put the sheeting on. Woohoo! Okay, that's that for now then, and that's it now. I'm going to have a bath. I've had enough. Right then, so that's how it should look, right, at the stage before sanding and sheeting. So if you look carefully, if the nice camera lady will zoom in, obviously that's how it's got to end up, a nice sort of shape. So when the sheet goes over, it's flat to go to this ribs on the side, yeah, the side formers. So obviously that's how it starts out. So what you do is, if you haven't got a plane like this in sandpaper, this is for the speed. So you just take it down as best you can at an angle, like so. Razor planes, fantastic things. And eventually you'll only be able to go so far, but it doesn't matter, it'll come off as you do it. Okay, that's enough, you can't really do much more off that. And it's nice, so it's nice and flat, and then obviously you turn it around, and this is where you start sanding it. Wear a mask as usual, get it down to its level, like so. Now you get a tricky bit, this is where you got to angle it. Take your time, not like me rushing it, because I'm trying to get it on the time of the camera as usual. And another I might point out, it's why I've strengthened them, because as you're sanding it, you might catch the rib and snap it off, so it's best to have that strength on it. Make sure it's nice and square like it is. Turn around on around. Make sure. Again, you use the dust, because you obviously can see there's a bump there, and that's no good. You've got to get it so it's flat, so it's going, the whole sheet's going to adhere to it. And spread that down there, same there. Because eventually, obviously, it's going to go to 0 there. Right, and just for an example, a piece of sheeting quickly. It's just an example, right? So you've got your sheeting now. You can get it on the camera. When it goes in, it'll rise. There's a nice flat surface for it all to go on. Does that make sense? See what I mean? So it's all on. You ain't got any gaps. And obviously when you put the sheet in, I'll come to that, but I'm definitely not doing it anymore. So hoover it off like you do, and that'll look nice. And it'll be like that, nice and round like that. So you've got everything in line, ready to go. So now you really are at the stage of sheeting. But before you put any sheeting on, you have to now go back to putting your nice fancy, they're dry now. See where I blacked them off? So these are now fitting wherever. So these need to be screwed down now, because obviously when you come put your sheeting on, you're going to have fun. Fun, says the jelly. So there you have it. Okay, I thought I'd put this on. As you can see in there, I've made, instead of using washers, I thought I'd do it that way. Just cut a piece of the tin to go drill the holes out like you do for the normal size for the bolts, and use them as washers to go against the hardwood, so it gives it a bit more solidity. That they don't sink into the hardwood, because over time with the weight of that, it will just solidify it more, if that makes sense, strengthens it up. And then the other things I did, it's different. As I did say the other day, I've decided to go with what I usually do, putting in scrap bits of balsa to help the side of the sheets to the fuse adhere to the actual fuselage. And that's just basically a piece of old scrap, and if you like, fit it in between there, measure up between the width between the ribs, cut, and then just sand to shape all along. Do one at a time, because it's easier then to sand it all. And that's them in. And you notice here as well, I've put a bar across here, strengthening bar. That's not on the plan or nothing, that's just extra, because what I intend to do is when I attach the machine gun, which got brilliantly made by Mr. Dean Farr, that will have something that I can attach it to later on. Okay, obviously, you know, when it gets in position. and out of that, see, and that's what that's for. Okay, well, I've got to do this bit now. So here we are. What you do is, this is your side sheeting for your fuselage. You basically take your sheet, make sure it's the longer out there, because there's 6 sheets and there's 2 top sheets that are slightly shorter. So this is 2.5mm width, thickness, balsa. Okay, or if you choose, you could use, I don't kill myself doing this. Oh, it's all collapsing on me. Help! Help is a word. It's what happens in a miniature flood shop. Right. Or you could use, personally, if I was doing this, right, I would use this very thin ply, because it's, I know it's expensive, but it's tougher. But since we're going to cover the front of the fuse with tin plate, it's not so bad. Okay, anyway, that's that. Raining balsa wood. There's a change. Right. Okay, so we got it pinned down, and you just basically run your sino, make sure it's on the edge all the way. Yeah, my camera lady's got a cold, bless her. Right, and then you just butt it up to the end, make sure the mesh straight, and get it flat. Make sure the seams are flat. Don't matter, get sticky fingers, it won't matter. Press it in against it, and if you've got this fixative stuff, that helps. Spray it over quickly. Nice, it's flat. And if you really want to just pin it down, it shouldn't really matter, but do it that way. Sometimes it's quite tough. Okay. And being salt balsa, it's not going to take long to set, especially with that Spricks stuff. So we'll leave it there for that. That's your sides. Now, if I bring you to this, you can see here. I'll obviously do a video of me fitting it all, but as for now, this is obviously curing as it stands. And like I said, there's going to be a tin plate going over this bit, like on the real one, which I'll come to. Good old beer can. So it's a good excuse to have a beer if your missus gives you grief. Okay, so that's how it's going to look, but obviously I'll do it so that you can see how I've done it. Okay, obviously I'll come to that now. So that's more or less there ready. Which I could probably take them off, but anyway, that'll do. I'm blabbing. So like by now I've blabbed that much. I can probably take this off now. Oh yeah, this is mainly for Ian McIntosh. You're on about the wing, mate, yeah? You're going to join the wing, brave lad. And you're going to inbox me millions. Alright, well, do it later. What have we got tonight? Is there soaps tonight, is there? Alright, well, after the soaps, probably be about 9 o'clock. About that. So if you ring me, video call me in at about 9 o'clock, and I'll get chatting, yeah, and we'll go through it. Okay? Right, anyway, so that's it. Look, sheets there, it's quite pliable. I mean, there's 2 ways of doing this. Some people, if they really want to be into it, they would give it a bit of steam on the kettle, just slightly to bend it, to give it a gift, but you don't have to really. I didn't do it with this one, you know, and then I'll come to the part when we're going to attach it on. That'd be great, and then we'll do that perhaps tomorrow. Alright, okay, thought I'd do this now. I wasn't going to do it, but you know, that's how it is. Right, this is when the sheeting on. Okay, right, we'll go through this, and I make mistakes. It is 10:30 at night, and I wasn't going to do this, but I was speaking to my mate Ian McIntosh, and I'm going to go for it. So here we go. So you got your sheeting as I just showed. So you put your white glue on. If it ever comes out, you'll be amazed. Right, put your white glue on like so. Down to where you think there. Right, and just follow it around the ribs. No matter how much white glue you put on them, all the better. Okay, down that end. Right, and then re-sheeting, because you know you're going to just put one edge, so I'll try and keep it in the camera. Same on that edge, as much as you want on, because it doesn't really matter. The more you got, the better. Okay, so you got sheeting on. Oh yeah, in the middle one. Alright, so. Okay, and make sure it's everywhere. Copious amount of glue. So you got it where Right. Now the key is you've obviously got to butt it up. Make sure it's nice and level to the top of the fuse. Doesn't matter about the bottom, because that's going to be cut away. So the top of your fuse is there, nice and level. And this is where I might add, you need copious amounts of clamps, right? Because the clamps are a key. So you got it nice and straight. That'll do. As long as it's covering the front here. Just mould it. Like I said earlier, if you steam it, it might help. But to be honest, this is a small 1/5 scale, so it doesn't matter. So if it goes over the top, doesn't matter. What you got to look for as I'm moving it now is to make sure it's in level with the top of the main fuse. If it barrels over, you can from the rear fuse like it's doing, then you don't have to worry because you can sand it. So you put your clamps on. Clamp the top first, as I'm doing. I mean, you can go excessive, which isn't a problem. And hold it in position. And we're doing this. Wow, this is live, not Memorex. Right, and you keep going. You also clamp the top first because that's where key is. Right. Ian's going to laugh now because I didn't say I was going to do this today, but I'm working all weekend delivering bloody parcels, so I ain't going to have time to do it. So I'll be too knackered at the end of the day. There's my mate. Oh no. Right, so you got it there. Do the same thing. Clip it in there. Make sure it's level. You've got to make sure it's running level with the top of the fuse no matter what. Even if it goes over. The clamps tend to pull them, but you'll see. Right, so you've got that there. And use a big clamp there. Right. So it holds it in. Now you've got the top in. Now you've got the top down on the rear end. I'm sure it's still on the camera. Hopefully. You know. Right. And put a pin in just to hold it. And then the key is to get the bottom clamp in tight. So watch your side of your right, that's that in. Right, you need a little one in there. Most professional builders go, what the hell is he doing? Yeah, well, there you go. It's almost there. Put a pin. The guide is like, you use your pins as a secondary, you know, clear off your excess glue, so you obviously don't need to worry about that. Right, so now you've got that there, you've got them in situ. The top bit again, put a little clamp on there. Just to make sure you've got things in place, so that's held in. So the SS glove. Now, these are handy being in place because now you can turn it over. I must still make sure it's in camera. I'll just check. It's not quite in camera. So, right. Pardon the. Right, most of it's in camera. I'll try and move the camera so it's a bit better. Right, I think that's about as best I'm going to get it. It's the bottom end now. The bottom end is you've got like. I'll move the camera actually. Sorry about this. If it makes you feel a bit queasy, moving the bloody camera. Right, you see here now where I've got my fingers and that. This bit here, because you obviously got to get that as tight as possible. You're going to have to cut this away. So you basically use a little saw and cut that away as excess scrap. Yeah, you know, so you can get your clamps in because it's key. So I'll put it back now to where it was. This is mad. I can't believe I'm doing this now. Like I said, I was going to leave this to another day, but the way I do it is, well, bloody do it now and get it up and done with. Right, I think that's the best way. So we chop that away with a saw. If you've got a flat saw, better still, but I'm using just a hacksaw blade with a bit of tape on. You roughly cut it. I'm thinking most model builders now will be going bloody mad what I'm doing, but you know what, that's the whole idea. Right, the sheeting's gone on. Right, you've got to get the sheeting, the top edge of the fuse here, like on this side. I'm gonna get the top edge of the sheeting level with the top of the fuse. but not exactly level. As long as it's there, you can always sand this bit down to match the top sheeting on the top of the fuse. As long as it's in curvature, right, and straight at the back, right. It doesn't have to be totally straight because you're going to sand that as well. All right. So then, like I've done, as you can see here, you clamp the tops in. First of all, you clamp the top in and make sure it's all nice and tight with your clamps. Right. The bottom sheeting doesn't matter so much. Using white PVA glue. Where you can, get your fingers clear off the excess glue. It's a lot easier to sand after. Okay, so we'll turn it around. Sorry it's a bit quick, but on the previous video I did show it, but the batteries ran out on the bloody camera. So here we are, right, we're now there. So you're on the bottom bit now, and what you can't see is where the curvature of where the ring goes. Before you clamp anything, you cut it with a I generally use an old hacksaw blade with a bit of tape on the end. Roughly cut it round so you can get room to get your clamps in, because you need room to get them in. Once you've got them in, your clamps, get them in where you can. Where my finger is now, you can't get a clamp on there, so you're going to have to use pins, or if you ain't got pins, piece of masking tape, put it around the edge of the fuse like so, pull it as tight as you want, and wrap it around the side of the fuse and just rip it. That'll hold it in place, right? And that'll do just as good as any pins. In fact, that'll be better because the pins might slip. Now you've got the front end here. Again, if you can get a clamp in, which is 9 out of 10 times you will get a clamp in. Depending on what clamps you use, I would go for the heaviest, strongest clamp, but I can get 2 in there, so I'll use 2 there. Because it's there, right? Right. Then you got the front end. Now the front end is a bugger because it's holding it in. It's a lot of pressure on it, but you cut it here, right? Okay. If you got any worries, do it that way. Turn it around. Always put the flat end on the side of the fuse, and that will grip it into a position that you want. And then finally, to get the front end on, tape again. Put your tape round as far as you can, pull it tight, and wrap it round the front. I tend to leave the weight of the tape there just so it doesn't, the stick don't come out. It don't matter, but that'll do. Right, and then you leave it a set. You check around it, so you got everything in grip, which you have, and then you have it. And that, then leave it. If this is PVA, it sets in 10 minutes, but I would personally give it a half hour to an hour for it to proper set before you do anything else. And once they're in situ, you've obviously got to cut away and sand down where the wing sits, but you've now got it in situ. Don't forget, right, that this is the carcass, as I call it, because on the real pup, or well, this is a pup here, but on a real pup, this is all going to be metal covered, which I'm going to use my famous beer cans for. Anyway, that's that for now. And I know it's a bit rushed, but unfortunately, like I said, the batteries ran out in the last video, which is annoying, but there you go. And then you'll see how it all comes together finally. Okay, and it's not Ian's fault. I'm not blaming me, blame Ian. Right, because he didn't want to get it done, because I've got too many parcels to deliver tomorrow, so I can't get it done after. I'll be too knackered. Anyway, that'll be done. So once it's all cured, it'll be in situ, and then everything's lovely. Right, okay, we're going to just do the topping, the fuse capping on the top. Okay, so if you're not sure of what you're doing at first, which is probably a good idea, make sure you got the right width, because there's 2 types of this. There's a shorter piece, which I'm going to use now, like I said on the previous video. Get an old piece like this, a scrap balsa plate, to practice first of all with, yeah, because obviously once you've got that, you're laughing. And then you basically just line it up to where your wing struts are going to be. Oh, and a pencil. Well, then you can do is I've already done it. Get a nice pencil or pen. Bearing in mind you don't want to mark it too much, so you just get a pencil better. Mark your line like so, matching up to the where they go, yeah. Usually, like I've done with this one, because this is previous to time, make sure you've got the wood where it's meant to be, because it's like on this one, the wood sits at the, you've got to have the wood sitting at the back here. So, well, I think I've probably done it already on this one. Yeah. So, make sure you've lined the wood up at the back here, on the rear spar, where the rear rib, top rib, is going to go for your top spars on the top of the fuse there. God, terrible code, so I apologise if I sound a bit weird. It's like I normally sound weird anyway. Jelly! So, line it up, mark it up that way with a pencil, preferably, not a pen, as you'll see why later. Right, and then obviously you do the same that way, put it in between, I'll try and show you that way, and a pencil mark there, and there, and so forth, and that way you guide it, and you draw your lines where the mark is. So your mark's laid there, say, yeah, so you know roughly where you're going, if that makes sense. You've got your guideline at the top and you mark it. Now it doesn't matter if you're a mile out, because this one is going to be a scrap piece, don't forget, so you've got it sort of roughly where you want it. Plus I'm going to sheet these with extra balsa on top to make them look more authentic to the real plane. So if you have too much of a little gap there, it doesn't really matter because it won't be seen. Okay, so then you've got that, and you've put it in place like so, just to test it. Like you do, you put it in to get a rough idea which where it sits, like you can see on there. Right, and this way you can alter it a bit like I've done, because you've got a little bit of a gap there. So you just cut away slightly here with your scalpel, and obviously there with your scalpel underneath if you need to get it in line. Okay, either way it doesn't really matter if there's a gap there, because this is going to be sheeted in a way again with a piece of tin plate, or you can fill it, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to get it right, like I did on the other one, you'll have it. So then once you've got that bit, you go back to your original piece. Oh yeah, and then obviously you know where you've marked it at the back. Follow your back piece, I'll put it on camera, follow your back piece onto the original, and that'll be your original sheet that's going on, and you basically line it up with that, and where you've cut out the holes on the scrap piece, there and there, you put your scalpel in and cut round the insides of the holes you've already marked, which will then give you, you put them on, nice tight fit, and there you have that bit now. Now it sits there, okay, and it'll sit in place. Right, so you've got it in. Again, you got it in. Now this is it. Where it sits, it's not sitting flush there. It doesn't matter, because if you sand it, you can sand it at an angle like so. The more you sand it at an angle to fit it in, you know, underneath, to give it a little bit of an angle. But that's up to yourself. It doesn't really matter, because once it's all glued in position, you can sand that back flat. Okay, that's going to be covered in a way, that bit, and this bit here is going to have metal sheeting on, so it'll be fine when it's done. No one's going to see it. It depends how particular you want to be. I mean, if you like Mr. Barry Clay, I suppose it would be spot on, bless him. Right, the other way now, is once this is on that way, you're going to fold it over. This is not going to be perfect. It's going to have an overlay of extra balsa. So what you then do is you take your time with this, you mark up the overlay. It's going to stick over maybe whatever, and you just mark on top of the balsa where it should meet on this bottom piece sheet you've already put in. Same on the back, mark it, you get a ruler and cut it gently with a scalpel, and then it will fit in. After a few attempts you'll get it in perfect like that there. Okay, right, that's that. So that's as good as you're going to get it. It's got to be nice, and that'll do it. Okay, if you're happy with it, then you go for the next stage, which is the fun bit, gluing it. Okay, so we've got to glue it. I think we're going to do it in the time of this video. I might give it a little bit more of a sand actually at an angle, just to help it. Right, now, as before, white glue, which I'm not piddly running out of. Right, what I tend to do with this is cheat a little. Put a bit of cyano on the bottom here. Definitely on this one. Right, so when you cyano across there, probably other people have got different ways of doing it. It wouldn't surprise me, to be fair, but as it stands, this is it. So I'm waiting for a whole load of balsa wood to come today from Sleck, so that's quite exciting stuff. If it does turn up, you better do, because I promised to do this build and do it properly. I'll explain that later on. Right, So you got that in there, and you get your white glue. Okay, white glue. Bloody state of that. It's all going on today, ladies and gentlemen. I've got my MOT, my van, that's coming up, and that's like bloody hell. And that's today at 3 o'clock. So here's hoping that passes. Oh, Jesus, I hope it does. And as you wonder, there's pretty glue on there, like so. Well, it don't matter, it's copious amounts of it. As you do, okay. And make sure you get the right end glued. It's now my luck will be the wrong end. Right, so glue this end here. Right, and then with this end, I tend to cheat now, and I'll use the fixative. It's quite handy, this fixative stuff. So you glue it on. It sits. Okay, you've got to get it on there. That's where it really needs to sit first. Don't worry about that bit really. I'm just going to put on the fixative bit. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, make sure it's on. That's why you use the white glue, because it gives you a chance to set it. And this will be fine now. And then if you really want to be keen, not quite a minute. Nothing like doing things live, is it? When it is live, I'll give you that. Right, now we have the fun bit of fitting it in. This isn't really that bad, to be honest. So we got it in there. Now here's a little tip. I prefer, you can use pins if you want, but to be honest with you, I tend to, I'll go back, get a piece of tape, like so. Oh man, this works a treat, this. So we do that. Once you've got it in, get your tape. Take it round. That's how they use a pin if I can find them. Everything's a bloody chaotic today. Just if you want to put a pin in there, don't think it's going to make a difference, but just to give you peace of mind, I suppose. Clean this shit off the edge. Right, it's that way. Just wrap it down. For now. I hope this is still in the camera, because if it ain't, it's going to be a bit of a problem. Right, that's it in there, like so. Next stage. I want to make sure it all fits in nice. Look at that. Spot on. No problems. That's that. Get another piece here. Yeah, a long bit. Right, fiddly, innit? He says, isn't it fiddly? Yes. Yeah, I've also found out something else which I'm still investigating. For some bizarre reason, a lot of my stuff on my timeline's been removed by somebody, which I'm a bit worried about, because it's strange, isn't it? And I'm talking going back a long time, years. So I don't know what has happened. It's kind of, I don't know. So I don't know how I'm going to solve that problem. It's gone, which is a bit worrying. I'm sure somebody will be able to help me with it. I don't have a clue. Right. It's a good job I saved the videos on other things. So it's just other bits and things. So anyway, stop rabbiting. See you there, almost there now. Is this still in the camera? Yeah, look at that. So you got your little bit here, which is the same problem. It won't matter. We'll get that on there. Right. Let's finalise this bit and that bit there. That's the easier bit. A lot of it is easy. And that is that. No, that's it. You just have the patience. Now, it don't matter if there's any lip here. Right. The reason I say, like, I've done them there, I marked, you can see it on the camera. I marked the air, which was a bit of a foolish thing to do. See, even I make mistakes. Because I'm going to have to sand that away now, because this bit I'm going to wood stain. And obviously this bit don't matter which one, because we're going to cut it out for the cockpit area, which is about here. So, you know what I mean, I will sand it all nice and even, and that way it'll be ready. So this is it now. Let's go and have a cup of coffee, because this takes 10 minutes to cure, or as long as you dare leave it. Okay, and then we'll come back to it. But that's how you do that bit, ladies and gentlemen, and that's it for now. Now, like I say, once this wood turns up, I'm going to have to sort of put a hold on the pup build and get on with Alistair's Hayford, bless him, and get that sorted. So that'll be interesting, because it's off of what they call a proper plan, apparently. A Tony Ninja's plan, I believe it is. So we'll go that once it turns up. Okay, that's that. So we'll clear the edges off, see, no problem. And we'll dress it up nice when it's done. Okay. Here you see here, this is what they call the cockpit cutout template, as it says. Now this is a very basic one, but as I've said before in the previous videos, you get your blue carbon paper, and I usually use old cards, like, you know, a birthday card, doesn't matter, and then you just obviously slide that all underneath the plan, like you would do underneath. Get a pencil, obviously you got your carbon paper there underneath, and you mark round it. And obviously you get it so that it's on the edge of the card, so it's got a nice even cut. So you put that in underneath, put your carbon paper on, match it up to it, if that makes sense, and you draw around it. Then you got your pair, right, when it opens up like so. Now, as you can see, this is a slightly different version, because then if you point the camera to the computer, I've looked at the cockpit on here, so that makes sense on there on my fingers, and it's slightly different, and I had a few looks at other ones up around, if you back up over there, you know, just to get a general idea of how it's going to go, to get it as close to the real thing. So we'll go back now. So you've drawn it out, you've cut it out, and obviously you've got your crease there, so you know it's going to be exactly the same either side. Again, do it with a blade, sharp blade, cut round the line gently like I've shown you in previous videos. Then you come to this bit on the fuse. Here you see I've already done it, but get it as central as you can. The cockpit sits central, so you line it up with the middle. I mean, if you really want to be specific about it, you would measure it. I mean, no, there's nothing. You get a measuring tape, measure it, find the middle, and then the middle of there, because this seam here isn't going to be in the centre. So you got it nice and central. Then you just basically get a pencil. Don't use a marker pen, use a pencil and go around it, draw around it basically like I've done. And you've got it, and you look at it to make sure it's central, which is more or less where it is. That's right. And then the bit you go with is you get a sharp blade, or you can use a saw, but I tend to use a blade. And as I've said before, gently go around it. Follow the line gently first of all. Right, as you see. And that way, if you do go off, because if you press too deep, you are likely to go off the line. You see, it'll go through, so it's starting to go through now. It's awkward with these bloody things on it, but I'll do it. My camera lady. What a result, the van passing its MOT, 3rd year in a row without having anything done. Well, a little bit, like a new tyre, but that's nothing, is it really? So that's a weight off my mind. It takes time, let's see. Everything's live. Okay. Right, this way, see. We'll demonstrate both ways now. Right, so you've got your hole there, see. Right, the other way to do it, I've got to prove. Makeshift saw, old hacksaw blade. If you can't, I mean, it's a bloody video. I don't like doing it this way, but if it helps. So you're in now. I mean, if you cut within the line, it don't matter. There. It's real live now, isn't it? get some Emmerichs. We'll get there, we'll get there. Take your time with this bit. Almost down it now. And that's it out. No, that little bit there. See, just to prove it, even everyone makes mistakes, so you need to put that back in, so that just sits in there. So a bit of glue. Okay. And that'll fit in there. Back in place, and that, you see, is roughly where it's meant to be. Okay, and then all we do is you just get a light piece of sandpaper if you want, and just make sure its edges are nice. And that's it, more or less it. And there you have that bit, yeah? And that's basically where it's going to sit. And obviously you've got your rubber bit that goes in the inside there, which I'll come to another day. Okay, so right, here we go. This is what I meant by the cockpit. As in like the real one, which is there, if you can see it, it's still sort of like, there you go, the wood. It's as close as I can get it, because this kit's slightly different. So, yeah, put the base in. It's just simple really to do that. That's going to be a cockpit area. And obviously you've got your man, Pilot. He's there, but it's an old one. But anyway, so another couple of coats on this of wood stain, which is antique pine, I might add. That's the colour, if you're going to do it that way, Ian. Antique pine interior varnish, and it's gloss, but it doesn't matter as matte, because I'm going to varnish it afterwards anyway. And obviously the masking tape's there to run across to make it as square as it can. Okay, and then after a couple of coats it'll be nice, bright and shiny. And the next stage then is to work on the struts, the wing struts, covering them. And then, hey presto, Bob's your uncle. That'll be good. Okay. Well, yeah, this is the bit you put in now to strengthen the back. This is just so you can put a slot in for when you're putting your wire in, whether you do closed loop or you're doing the rods. Which I haven't made my mind up yet. So I don't know if my arm's going to be in the way. I'll try it differently. So what you do is you get it a flat piece like that, which is not a problem, and you basically line it up to the back. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't fit perfect, because you're going to get it in anyway. So you get it in like that, and you basically draw the line down and there, and we pull it back if you want. Better still, we'll do it that way, shall we? So okay, so you get it in flush with the top of the bottom of the longer arm at the top there. Draw your line with a pen. Okay, and once you've got that, you cut it with a scalpel, and then don't super glue it in. And obviously you've done that side, like I've done this side already. Don't glue it in until you've done the same process the other side. So then, as you can see, as I've done, here's one I made earlier from Blue Peter, and that's why I said use the white glue, because it gives you a chance to get it in. And then you can see what I mean, and that's when you put your rod in or your wire, you've got a place to cut it. Just a bit of scrap bolts, it can be a bit thicker than that, it doesn't really matter. Right, you don't really want too much weight on the tail anyway. And you cut your slot in there, and just draw roughly what I mean, sort of like a slot. You know, that's where you're going to have your slot to put your rod through. Okay? To get the holes in line for the pegs, which I'll try and get it in the camera, the pegs, I don't want to knock it. So you got your pegs. What I do, and this is probably unethical because most builders will probably be screaming by now, what the hell is he doing? But this is the only way I do it, sort of for this one, is I line up the fuse, to the bottom of the wing, like so. I roughly take a measurement with a pencil where the pegs are going to go. And then, as I've done it that way, I then go, because you've got to get it central, and try and get, it's only a rough guess for this bit here, then you mark them, and then pre-drill them with a small drill, and then that'll go, put it back and see where if you're at the right place, and then eventually drill it with the right size for the, I can't put it back there, the right size of the peg, which I think this is 6mm. Drill it through and then keep putting the wing back until you've got it in a perfect situation like it is there. So once you've got it in position, make sure these two bits, I'll try and move the camera up, yeah, you can still see, so I'll move up a bit. Right, so here you've got to get the wing so that it's even either side of the cut, so it's even with the fuse. Once you've got that, you've already got your hole pre-drilled that you did from the previous videos. So what you do is you've got it in position, you think it's central, then obviously with the small drills, I've changed it now, you back drill it, so in other words put the drill in reverse to get your mark, and then you can either drill straight through with the wing in position or take it off and drill it. And once you've done that and you're happy with it all, then the next stage is you've got rid of the wing. Get rid of the wing. God dear. Right, do that. Yeah, I'll put that there for now. And then you see you have your hole. And what you're doing to fit in to one of these, so I'll get one of these. This is your locking nut. Yeah. What I do is you've got to get the width of that, say whatever it is, the width, so about 2mm extra than what the actual hole is, so that'll be about an 8mm for this one. And you drill it out to 8mm, and then on the holes, you press it in by hand, first of all. I do it this way. So you've got marks where the little grips are going to be, and I pilot drill them with a little small drill. Then once they're in, turn it around the other way, and then clamp them in. And I tend to use two of these, like one either side, and you grip it in right flat to the wood. And then after that's in, you then put the wing back on, just to make sure you're happy with what it in the position it's in. Gently screw it up with the bolt, just to make sure everything's happy. And then from then on, the other thing to do is what I've done, but just to make sure that it was safe enough with the bottom wing. Actually, I'll bring it around if I can. Here I put another piece of ply in underneath, just to give it a bit of strengthening where the pegs go in for the wings. Okay, just to make sure. And that's that bit really. So you see, it's all there. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And then do what I said in the previous or the next video, which I put it on, of making sure that's secure and it doesn't slip out, which is definitely either the video before or the video after, whatever. I can't remember. Okay, and all as well, I might add, you have to have the bottom wing on in position straight, as so you can fit the top wing, to make sure. You need that as a guide, if that makes sense. I'll come to that in a later date. Okay, so that's that for now. And you can also then, you might have to do a bit of fettling, sanding here and here to make sure it's all right, like I did, but that's just the way it is. That's all part of building it. Then once your wing's in, you can put your support strut at the back, and Bob's your uncle, funny's your aunt, and you're laughing. Okay, I've just thought I'd tell you this as a tip. I'll try and keep it in the camera. I'm just using scrap balsa, but what you really need to do is, once you've got the retaining nut in that's going to hold the wing bolt on, and preferably the wing as well, the trick is like some people try and epoxy the nut in, which is okay if you want to try that, but the other way I tend to do it is just a tip. Imagine these are your thin pieces of ply, and all you basically do is what I do. I mean, it's to rough it, but you obviously do it neat. No one's going to see it anyway. But what I tend to do is you put a piece there, so you've got that piece there. Obviously you put it nice and straight. I'm just doing it for the speed of the camera. You put a piece there, up against it. It doesn't matter whereabouts on there, as long as you put it. And obviously this is on the inside of the brace, it's holding it inside the fuse. So you got that there, and then you get your other piece of ply. And obviously what would help as well is just to make as if that's your wing bolt, right? So you got your wing bolt there as a guide. You get your hole, back drill it through the ply. Okay, so you back drill it through, and then you use your nut as a guide, your bolt even as a guide, right? And then once it's all, this is obviously in situ of your fuse, your bolt's a guide. The reason your bolt's is a guide, so you don't get it tacked up, and it's rough, but it will do. I'll turn it around and it's easier. And then you put it on like so, clamp it down, and it's basically just to stop the bolt from ever, because I'm sure people in the past have found out that the bolt, if it comes out and you've got your wing on, you ain't getting it off, you know what I mean, if it slips up through. So it's just another sort of safety precaution to stop it. It's only a little tip, but it does affect it, you know. You never have to worry about it ever slipping out again. It's just a quicker way than trying to epoxy it. And if you don't want to use super glue, epoxy it or whatever, but the super glue will suffice. But like I said, obviously these ain't, don't use balsa, use ply, thin ply I do. Okay, and that's that tip. Okay, I would have shown you on the plane I might add, but you can't get the camera in, it's too dark. So that's the idea. I hope it sort of works. Alright then, cheers, bye.
Those magnificent men, those magnificent